Happy noon, everyone. I'm Jillian Graver, Executive Director of Protect PT, and we have some very special guests today with us for our virtual lunch hour. We are talking to folks from Citizens for Radioactive Radon Reduction, also known as CR3, and I want to introduce to you Nate Burden. He is the Science Advisor for CR3 and the President of the PA Chapter of the American Association of Radon Scientists and Technicians, also known as AARST. He's a radon scientist, a graduate of Carnegie Mellon, majoring in physics, and he worked at the Beaver Valley Nuclear Power Station. So welcome, Nate.
Thank you.
We also have Jackie Nixon. She is the Senior VP of Marketing and Communications for CR3, and she's also a cancer survivor. So welcome, Jackie.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so Jackie, we kind of met by coincidence, and we're found each other through a grant writing course, and connected and started talking about the different initiatives that we're working on. And so I'm glad you and Nate can be here today to talk with us, because I think that radon is something that everyone needs to be aware of, and that's what your organization's trying to do. Do you want to tell us a little bit about CR3 and the efforts you're trying to do right now?
Sure. CR3, Citizens for Radioactive Radon Reduction, and we call ourselves CR3, is basically we are an advocacy group that is made up of cancer survivors, industry leaders, folks in the industry that are trying to basically advocate for testing and mitigation of radon gas. So what we do is we educate people about the dangers of radon, and Nate will talk to you about that, radon gas and how it affects the lungs, how it causes cancer. It's the second leading cause of cancer and number one among non-smokers like myself. I'm a cancer survivor, and I stage 1A, and I was caught in time early. So therefore, I was lucky. Many that do not even detect it until they are in late stages. So when I got my lung cancer, I decided that I was going to make a sign. I was going to march around and hand out test kits on my own. Tenacity, it's everything. But I ran into Gloria through phone calls and whatnot. And Gloria Lennox is our director. And she said, would you like to be the Pennsylvania representative for CR3? And I said, sure. What does that mean? She says, well, you hand out brochures and you do all of the things to educate people in your community, just in your community. And that was 5 years ago. So CR3, basically, we have events. We have a magazine now. I published a magazine called CR3 News Magazine. We have about 18,000 subscribers, and it's international. Not only is it in the United States, it's in Canada, it's in Europe, Japan, South Korea, and in Brazil. So we basically just make people aware that they need to test, why they need to test. And where can you get a test kit? That was another thing. That's how I fell into Gloria. I was looking for test kits. So the goal is not only to encourage them to test in their homes, but we are also working on Teachers for Radon Reduction, which is to encourage testing in the schools. So basically that's what we do. And we basically are nationwide. We're a 501(c), and we have about 30 members. And the members, we have representatives that represent each state. I represent, and Nate works with me, thank God. He works with me on Pennsylvania, but we have other states that other reps are, doing a lot of great work with. So that's what we do.
Thank you for that overview, Jackie. And
Sure.
I know that the first thing we wanted to talk about was this wonderful calendar that you guys put together. And I'm going to ask Mary. She's on the back end here helping us with some tech, and I'm going to ask her to find the link to that some of the publications that you guys put out so folks can connect and learn more about the publications that you spend a lot of time. You spend a lot of time putting all
Yeah.
those together. So we want to make sure people have access to that resource. But tell me a little bit about the calendar. And I think the next slide we have is actually one of the first pictures. So tell me
Yeah.
about this picture and why this is important.
Well, first of all, with the concept, the whole idea was that there's an organization called CRCPD, and there were others that actually have a contest that goes beyond just Pennsylvania, but it's a contest, and they have school children who want to participate in this contest at their schools. They draw what their concept of radon is. And let's just say the top 3 winners for that school then get submitted to the state first, and then the state picks the top 3 maybe for their state. And then they submit those along with the national, which is all the states that participate, and then they pick the ones that are the winners for the national, and they get prize money and whatnot, But this has been going on since about 2007, I think. And what I noticed was when I saw them, and they're so cute. I mean, they're really good. And some of them are so creative. That they're sitting on basically a website. And I thought, in this time of COVID and this pandemic, the kids are working and they're going to school part-time and they're at home. And people are so COVID centric right now that they're kind of forgetting about radon. And we don't want that to happen. Okay. And I said, all right, what can we do as an organization to keep radon in front of people, so that, it's just in their minds, you never want it to stop, you got to do something. And so I know everybody's focused on COVID and how we're going to survive this and whatnot. But the key thing that came out of it was that eventually COVID is going to go away and radon is still going to be there because it's a naturally occurring gas that comes out of the ground, right? It's not going anywhere. So we looked at things and said, well, how can we do soft marketing pieces? And I started looking at these kids' drawings and they were just too cute. So I said, you know what? We should make a calendar, a school calendar with their drawings, and then get them out to the schools, get them out to the libraries, get them in the hands of the children. And then they can see what other kids are thinking about. They can read about radon, use it as an educational tool, just to talk about this radon issue in a soft way. We don't want to scare them to death. And then bottom line, if they read it, and we've got little questions in there like, should everybody test their home? And then we give them a simple answer, yes. And so what we did is we did that. And we created this calendar. And the calendar we started with was Pennsylvania. That's our pilot project. And it went beautifully. American Lung Association, as well as the Department of Environmental Protection, Pennsylvania, helped us to get it disseminated across the state. And each page of the calendar has one of these drawings that have to do with radon. And it was a successful project. So the next one we're doing is a national, and we have the national, which means we picked some from every state. And that's another one. That's a winner for Pennsylvania, and actually went up to the national as well. That was the number 1 first prize. So we added those. We created a national calendar, and we're putting them up on a portal that everyone, if they want to purchase them for their organization, do so. Reason being is because Radon Action Month comes up in January 2021, and they would make great, promo items for that particular, month. So, I mean, you can get them before that, please, but that's the whole idea, to get it in the hands of the children, and the children will read it and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, did we test our home? And it might raise some consciousness among your parents to go out and get a test kit. And that's an example of the actual calendar. And you can see more at the portal website. If you don't have that, then just email me and I can send it to you immediately. But that's the whole concept behind it. It's just get it in the hands of the children, and start educating your children, because half of them are at home, half of them are in school.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to test both places. So let's keep this in front of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And so you had reached out to us. I'm going to unmute myself. So you had reached out to us and told us about the calendar, and we thought it was a great partnership. We said, okay, we're going to distribute, I think, 1,000 calendars.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked our intern, Lily, who's been working with us. She is a Norwin High School student, and she's doing fabulous work with us. We asked her, hey, Lily, can you reach out to some of the schools and ask them? Because, as a mom, I think it's really important that we're doing this outreach. A lot of homeowners, when they buy their home, they get tested for radon. But, there's a lot of people out there that don't own a home and maybe rent. And so they are not maybe being aware of the testing for radon. It's really important. So we wanted to make sure that it got into the hands of the kids. And really, she did a lot of work to try to get them out. But we have distributed, and I think you sent them a week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
They got to us. They're all gone.
Wow.
So it's wonderful. And so now we just actually talked about getting more, because she said, we have one school that wants even more. So I think
that's excellent. Wonderful.
it's really great. But this is an example of the calendar, and Mary had put up here's the link to the calendar that I just popped up on the screen for everyone, because I think it's really important. And I think that another partnership, or another kind of benefit that has come out of our talking together and some of the grassroots organizing that you have done and that we do,
Mm-hmm.
is just the ability to connect with other organizations that do similar work. And
Right.
you told us about this Radon Eye monitor, which is really inexpensive. And so we're actually looking into getting grant funding for next year to buy some of the Radon Eyes to be able to do free testing for people in their homes. We already test air monitoring. We already have air monitoring devices to be able to test for PM 2.5, which is that really small particulate matter, which, Nate probably knows a ton about that and can talk about the importance of that a little bit more. But, this will then kind of pair with our already existing air monitoring program. And we're really excited, because I actually have, you probably can't see, up on my mantle and behind me, there is a Radon Eye, and it's telling me right now what my radon level is in my home. And you can connect it to your smartphone, which is really cool. And we're hoping to get those out to all different folks in the community. So keep an eye out for that, everyone. And Jackie and Nate are doing such tremendous work. We want to talk to Nate a little bit and, find out about a little bit more about radon and why it's important for people to know about it. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, Patrick, I think this one is one of Nate's.
Yeah. My name is Nate Burton. I'm a physicist or radon scientist. Part of my job is getting people to know about radon. Why should they care about it? There's always more and more things we have to worry about living in our homes. We got indoor air quality. We've got chemicals and things like that in food. So again, when you think about radon, basically it's a radioactive gas that comes out of the ground. It's naturally occurring, but it's invisible. You can't taste it, you can't smell it. But what the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection and the environmental EPA basically have looked at radon as the second leading cause of lung cancer. Next slide. As a second leading cause of lung cancer. And in Pennsylvania, we have some of the we have the highest radon levels in the world discovered. I think it was in Allentown, PA. We measured 18,000 picocuries per liter. Out by Harrisburg, that area, we measured 6,000 picocuries per liter. Even in the Allegheny County area, we've measured levels over 1,000 picocuries per liter. The EPA action level is 4 picocuries per liter. So Pennsylvania has some of the highest radon levels in the country. What's the big deal about radon? Next slide. It causes lung cancer, and we'll go through that. It actually causes, the U.S. Surgeon General and the EPA says about 20 to 21,000 lung cancer deaths are caused by exposure of radon in your homes. And with the COVID going on, more people spending more times in their homes. This is something we need to be aware of. Radon-induced lung cancer, 21,000 people is a lot of people. A lot of people, you look at COVID, it's now over 200,000, but this is preventable. Just like if you wear a mask with COVID, that helps them, to prevent the spread of COVID. And I actually sit on a COVID task force for the Department of Pennsylvania Department of Health, working with them and getting this message out about COVID also. But with radon being the second leading cause of lung cancer, and if you smoke, you have even a higher chance of that. But the biggest deal that I want to get across of radon-induced lung cancer, that it is preventable. That's the whole thing. It does not have to happen. If we could reduce the 20,000 lung cancer deaths, we could actually reduce the actual medical costs of lung cancer costs and things like that by over $2 billion. So it's not just about just doing a radon test. Who wants to wind up getting lung cancer? Next slide. The danger, the threat in your home, nearly 80% of those with lung cancer are former or never smokers. That means, how did you get lung cancer if you've never smoked? And one of those leading causes, in fact, the number one cause of lung cancer in non-smokers is exposure to radon. So that's the key thing we want to be aware of. And usually people that get lung cancer, and Jackie can tell you, she actually was, hers was diagnosed at an early stage 1A. And generally most lung cancers are diagnosed in stage 2 or stage 3 or even later, which means the survival rate is probably less than 5 years when you're diagnosed with stage 3 or stage 4. Next slide. And this is just a very quick. So you still don't believe me that radon gas in your home causes lung cancer. And this is something to be concerned in schools, daycare centers, workplaces, wherever you're at, you need to be concerned about this. This is just a picture of the radiation coming from a radon. This is about 100 picocuries per liter in Pennsylvania. And they use a special thing called a cloud chamber. We actually can see the radioactive particles zipping out like bullets. And those things are hitting your lungs, which causes damage to the DNA of your lung cells and causes those cells to basically get damaged, and they actually turn into cancer cells. And that's how lung cancer is caused, just by the radioactivity. Think about breathing in radon and radon gas, and this is happening inside your lungs. So obviously this is something we need to be concerned about, especially people in Pennsylvania and really around America. And the only way really to know that you have a radon problem is to do a test. Next slide. Guess what? If you got lungs, then you can get lung cancer. That's the whole point. If you have lungs, you can get lung cancer. So we need to do everything we can to reduce that. It's all about health, protecting our family, indoor air quality is the key issue. Next slide. Again, and the question is, if I convinced you all about this, and this is the second leading cause of lung cancer, it's the number one cause of lung cancer for people who never smoke. So why haven't all homes and schools, especially in Pennsylvania, have been tested for radon? That's really the question. Is that serious? But because radon is invisible, it was like stinky socks, like your kids have gym clothes that smell horrible. You would want to do something about that. Or you saw mold growing on your walls. That would make you very uncomfortable. So the perception is you want to do something about this. But because radon is that silent killer, it's invisible, it's not on our radar, My job is to make sure that it's on the radar that everybody in Pennsylvania and in the United States have tested their homes for radon, including schools, daycare centers, and workplaces. Next slide. And I guess the real question is, has your home been tested for radon? My recommendation, if you're going to do one thing while even spending more time in your homes with the COVID pandemic, is to do a radon test. It's cheap, it's economical, and to fix it is even more economical in the sense that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. A lot of times these systems can be done less than $1,000 is the range now, from $1,000 to $1,500. But you're basically protecting your family, especially anyone that has a genetic disposition toward cancer in their family. This becomes even more key. And I think that's it. If I'm not, just one more slide, I think. And this is just the final thing. You know, what I want to get across the message for everyone: test your homes, schools, daycare centers, and workplaces for radon. Jackie is really pushing for radon testing in schools, even among the COVID, where it's a priority. But why will we expose our children to this and put them at a higher risk of getting lung cancer? Okay. If elevated radon is found, then you mitigate it by a licensed radon mitigation professional. But the key thing is radon-induced lung cancer is preventable. Make radon part of your conversation with every neighbor, your school, your doctor, daycare center. Make everyone aware of this so we can put it on the radar and address that. It would be wonderful to say, for the 20,000 lung cancer deaths that are caused by radon, we can cut that in half. It would be the goal if more people actually test it. So the bottom line, test your home for radon because it's critical. Your life depends on it. Your family depends on it. Thank you. That was short and sweet.
Yeah. Thank you, Nate. And I have a couple questions for you, and we actually have a question from the audience as well. So, so my initial questions were, so I know, and I think I know the answer to this, but I want to see if you can let other folks know. So I know weather can affect radon.
Weather can affect radon.
Yep.
Generally, again, just the problem is with low pressure system. When you hear the weather people talk about low pressure systems, that's usually when a rainstorm is coming, or you get high winds, or almost like a hurricane. That actually causes the house to become at what we call negative pressure. It actually pulls the radon in higher. Okay, so in the wintertime, the radon levels tend to be higher than the summertime. Okay, but again, the key thing here is the idea of testing your home. Probably the colder months are the best time to test your homes, as opposed that we just got out of our hot season about 2 weeks ago. It's like 80 and 90 degrees. But now this is the really best time to really do your radon testing is in the wintertime when your house is closed up.
And so I know, doesn't the moisture level or rain also impact radon?
No, it does not.
No. Okay.
Okay, it's the pressure differentials, not the moisture, not the rain. If anything, if it really rained a whole lot and the water table went up, actually rose up, it actually could push the soil gases up through your house.
Okay.
But that will be the only real case. But the key thing here is that the radon levels can vary throughout the year. So it's really critical that you do a radon test. And because your neighbor's house may be tested below the action level of 4.0, maybe it was 1 picocurie per liter, your house could be 20 picocuries per liter, and it varies from house to house.
And what is considered, like a safe level where you don't have to really do any type of remediation?
Okay, the safe level basically, and it's really no safe level, but the ideal here is that the EPA and the Pennsylvania DEP have set an action level of 4.0 picocuries per liter. So if say you do a test and it's 3.5, EPA would say you should consider mitigation. If it's below 2, then EPA says then basically mitigation is not recommended. But between 2 up to 3.9 picocuries per liter, you should consider it. At 4 and higher, it is strongly recommended. And even in Pennsylvania, selling a house, are buying a house, usually there's a radon addendum to that. Well, almost everybody selling a house in Pennsylvania usually gets a radon test done. And if that's over 4, then usually the people that own the property have to hire a licensed radon mitigator to fix the problem to reduce those radon levels down.
Okay. And then what is the best way to remediate for radon?
To remediate for radon is really to hire a licensed a Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection licensed radon mitigation contractor. And you can get that list if you just Google radon Pennsylvania. You'll go to the Pennsylvania DEP website. They have a list of all the licensed radon mitigators and even testers. So if you're doing a real estate test, you can hire a licensed professional radon tester, but for the mitigator, you can hire them. And generally what it is, they actually stick a pipe in the foundation basement floor, and they connect a fan to it. It creates suction, and it sucks the radon from underneath the floor before it gets underneath the concrete basement floor before it gets into the volume space of your house. And those things, the radon mitigation system is about 99% effective in reducing the radon levels below 4 picocuries per liter. So it's very important that you hire a licensed contractor. And there are lots of them in Pennsylvania, especially in the Allegheny area and other areas. And I think even with Jackie and I'm sure with your site, we can give the links to look up that specific information.
Great. Yeah, Mary, if you wouldn't mind looking at those links for us, that'd be great. We have a question from someone in the audience. They're asking, is there a correlation with incidents of radon and the underlying shale play? So the shale and with the production or extraction of shale gas.
Yeah. There is some studies that were done just recently, maybe a couple of years ago, about fracking, shale, and different things like that. The first thing, let's look at the geology of Pennsylvania. There's an area, a geological formation called the Redding Prong that runs sort of right through, almost crisscross across Pennsylvania, and it goes, from Pittsburgh all the way to Harrisburg, up into New York. And those areas really tend to have very high levels, but not to get trapped just in that, but basically everywhere in Pennsylvania has a high potential for having high radon levels. The only way you're going to know that is to do a radon test.
Yeah, thank you.
And as for the fracking, they did find that when fracking has been done, they have actually seen an increase of radon levels in people's homes, because if they're drilling down, they're cracking and allowing more of the soil gas, the radon gases, to come up through those cracks now into homes, and actually have seen increases of radon levels, especially in areas where there's been fracking, or say you're putting in a sewer system where you have to sort of blast, those areas to run pipe and things like that. They've actually seen increases of radon levels for that. Hopefully I answered the question for everybody.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great answer. I have another question. All this kind of a continuation of the first question. And is there a normal pressure gradient that pulls radon gas from under the ground to above? I'm not sure if you can answer that.
What they're referring to is what we call pressure differentials within houses. Houses have air exchange rates. You got to keep in mind that if your house was totally enclosed and nothing could get in, nothing can get out, you would suffocate. Houses breathe, okay? And for a healthy house, you want a house that breathes. You remember your grandmother's house where you had to sleep with a blanket and all that because it was really drafty, but they didn't have all the problems that we have now. Where you read in the wintertime, people dying or getting sick from carbon monoxide poisoning from using a kerosene heater, or your hot water heater is not burning efficiently if it's a gas heater, and you can get carbon monoxide poisoning. But the pressure differentials in a house can change, as I said, between weather, okay, the windows, how much air is going on. So there's no magic number. The key thing is that all houses tend to be at negative pressure just to the air exchange rate and what we call thermal stack effect, where warm air rises to the top. So you're always going to have some pressure differential or driving forces that drive the radon in. If you have a sump pump in your basement. You know, it's always cracks in the floor. You know, it's all those little things there, and you just can't seal the cracks. It's not the effective way to try to reduce the radon. You really need to hire a professional radon mitigator. First, you need to test to find out what your radon levels are, and this is the best time right now to do that.
Great, thank you. And we have another question too. Um, they ask, can't you just vent a nicely insulated house by continual low flow exhaust fans, which are currently what the green home renovators recommend?
The problem there with that, depending on what they're talking about, is dilution, okay, where they're trying to dilute the air and then lower the radon concentrations by mixing fresh air into that. That's a great idea for that, but what do you do in the wintertime? You either are going to have to bring fresh air in, but you're going to have to condition or heat that air. Otherwise, you're going to freeze everybody in the house. Therefore, the easiest, most economical way for reducing radon is still the radon mitigation system that sucks the radon from underneath the slab and pushes it out. You can bring fresh air in, but also if you don't balance that correctly, you actually can increase the amount of radon levels by if you're blowing more air out of the house than what's coming in, if it's not properly balanced, you actually can increase the radon levels. Again, having a house with good indoor air quality and fresh air is important. I agree totally. But the main, most effective way in reducing radon is by installing a professional radon mitigation system, because it addresses the source. And that's the difference right there.
Great, that's good advice. Thank you. We have another question. It says new basement slabs over gravel may have a passive radon pipe vs an older base versus an older basement floor,
Yeah.
under which any gravel is more packed, um, silted up. I don't know if this is more of a
And
comment.
I know what they're referring to.
Yeah, there's a second part.
A lot of the new construction homes have what we call passive radon resistant construct mitigation system. This is a pipe that the builder puts in, and he usually runs corrugated pipe underneath the slab, connects it to a solid PVC pipe that either will stub up through the basement or go all the way up to the roof. And the idea that if you say buy a house and it has that system in, all you would need to do then, if there was an elevated radon level, is connect a pipe and a fan, and your system would automatically already built in. It would be a whole lot cheaper, probably less than $500 for something like that. If they have a passive system that's built all the way up where the pipe goes all the way through the roof, those houses with that passive radon resistant mitigation system tend to have lower radon levels. It doesn't work all the time. So let's say you made it passive, but it didn't reduce the radon levels low enough. You simply would add a fan to that, and that would be really cheap to do. So yeah, this is more economical in new construction houses. They are putting these pipes in by the builders, and a lot of buyers are demanding that, especially in Pennsylvania, because it's a value-added service and making their house healthier and safer and cheaper to address these problems when they move in with their family.
Yeah, and there's another comment here, maybe question. Will the newer gravel base stay open enough for a passive system to work over time? I think you already mentioned that. Perhaps there's better isolation of the gravel nowadays. Yeah, I think you already answered
Yeah, the
that question.
gravel is most houses are built with good gravel, so there's good air movement underneath the slab. So the ideal now, the houses are being built where water doesn't collect. They have French drain systems and things like that. So yeah, the newer houses are going to be much easier to mitigate than say the older houses. But the reality is in Pennsylvania, we have a huge amount of houses that are old. I mean, we're talking about over 50 years that were built in 1950s, 1940s. I'm actually living in a house that was built in 1910. Okay, so those houses you're going to have to address, the old school way, and you need to do the radon testing for that. The new houses are much easier to mitigate, and if they build them the correct way, they will be less radon prone than the older buildings.
Nice. Yeah. And then the next comment is our house, part old, part new, has both kinds, passive and active fans. The active system really makes a difference for radon numbers. So that's one of our
Right.
folks there making a comment. And actually, Mary has a link up here for us. I'm going to put it up on the screen here. That for the DEP license mitigation contractors. So we have that up on our screen right
Great.
now for folks to find a contractor. I asked Mary, and she's probably working on it right now, to find there is another organization called Ruckus, and it stands for Reducing Outdoor Contaminants in Indoor Spaces here in Pittsburgh. They it's ruckus.org, and they actually do lots of different types of testing. My husband and I participated in a cohort a few
Linda
years ago.
Whittington.
Yeah, where we did radon testing, we did PM 2.5 testing, we did CO testing, CO2 testing, and it was a really interesting study. So I highly recommend, if folks want to learn more about that, they can go to ruckus.org. And then we have a video that we wanted to share as well. Patrick, if you go to the next screen, we can play this little video. I hope. Patrick, you may have to turn on your sound in order for us to hear it. Well, I think he's still trying to figure out how to do that. I think you're going to have to turn on your sound, Patrick. And I don't think he's able to do that. That's okay. Is there another place we can watch this video, Jackie? I know we had posted it on our social media. No, and Jackie, you're muted as well.
It's actually in our magazine in the last issue, and will be in the September issue as well, to CR3 News Magazine. But I'll send you a link, and you can play it use it any way you feel like you'd like to use it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important for parents to advocate for radon testing in schools. That's one thing that us as parents we can do to help protect our kids. I look at it as our kids are mandated by law to go to school to these buildings. Now, luckily with COVID, some of us have options where we can have our kids learning from home and the online option, but there's a lot of schools that don't have that. So everyone, I think, in Pennsylvania should be advocating for the schools to be testing for radon on a consistent basis. And we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be testing out this Radon Eye that we have right now, but really you can find it on Amazon right now or other places. I'm sure it's available for to be able to buy. It's a relatively low cost. It is a little bit of an investment, and like I said, it actually will link with your smartphone, and you'll be able to see what your radon levels are, and if you go over that 4 radon levels. So right now, it says no action required, that my radon level is 1.65. And I've had this on for a couple weeks, and so it tells me over the last couple weeks what my radon levels have been. So that's interesting. But at one point, and I think this is what concerns me. So a few weeks ago, we were adding a heater, an appliance, onto our home. So we had actually opened up the gas pipe in order to fit some new fittings and things on there. And I believe at that same time, our radon level went to 5.03. And there's a spike in the data. I can see a spike in the data. And then I can see, I don't know if everyone can see that. It's pretty, I've got my window in front of me. But there is a spike there. And I'm wondering if the gas that's coming out of the pipe also contains radon. I'm not sure. Nate, do you have anything?
It shouldn't.
Okay.
What probably happened when you put in the gas heater or whatever, you probably it actually maybe depending on what's going on, more air was leaving the house than what was coming in, and that caused the levels to spike up.
Hmm.
The spikes aren't that critical. It's the long-term exposure as opposed to jumping up to 4 or 10, and then jumping back down. The really key is that little spike is not the critical point. It's the overall long-term exposure of you living in the house that increases the risk for radon-induced lung cancer.
Interesting. Okay, that's good to know. And it looks like my average is about 3.2. So perhaps should I think about getting some type of remediation system, do you think?
That's sort of up to you. Again, if you were selling your house, yes, but again, for what we're trying to do is move this needle away from real estate, where most of the radon testing is done. What about all the people that aren't selling their houses, that live in their houses? Ideally, you want to do the radon test, and then if you have something like for you that's 3 picocuries per liter, you may decide that I want to play it safe and I want to put a mitigation system in. We've actually had people call us and we put mitigation systems in at 3 picocuries per liter, where the idea is not to get stuck on the number because there's no real safe number. It is the idea to keep in mind. So when it gets between 3 and 4 and you got that whole thing, we get into measurements and accuracy and quality and ranges and all that kind of stuff. For me, I would rather play it safe. When I get the 3 to 4 picocuries per liter, maybe I want to consider that. That's not a marketing push. It's a personal decision on your part
Right.
on whether you think you want to really address the issue, even at 3 picocuries per liter.
So, so if I want to so do I contact you then, or do I look in that list of people, and
You can look in that list that's there, but you also can contact me. I'll be glad to direct you for people local in this area to your area, since I do most of the training and certification courses for the state and certifying people. I know most of the people in the area for that. So yeah, I'll be glad to be of assistance. And if you want to do another session just on how to test your home, or how does an actual mitigation system look like and what does it cost, and how does it work, I'll be glad to do that too. I'm at your service.
nice, thank you. Yeah, we have another comment. It says half radon does come with gas. One advantage of many being close to shale gas extraction is, or one disadvantage is that gas extraction hasn't had time to decay along the way. Uh,
No,
and
what
then,
they're what he's referring to is the idea of the concern about natural gas from fracking or
mhm,
natural gas. And the problem is most natural gas is not just naturally piped up through say from fracking or whatever and then directed to the house. That gas has to be processed and treated, and normally usually add some sort of odor that no most natural gas has no odor. So they
mhm,
have to add an odor thing. So when you smell, oh, that smells like gas. So by the time they go through that process, the radon has a half-life of 3.82 days. That means then in one half-life, 3.82 days, it will decay by half. And in another half-life, it will decay by another half. So generally, by the time it gets processed into your house, it's probably gone to 3 to 5 half-lives, or about 15 to 30 days before that actual natural gas is delivered to you. So a lot of the radon, if it is in the gas, has decayed away to almost nothing. And they did, Pennsylvania actually did do a study on that. So you
yeah,
want to just keep in mind that radon gas is constantly decaying and changing to other things. So it's not like oxygen or or nitrogen. That state nitrogen is nitrogen for the whole year round, while radon, it changes all the time because it's radioactive.
And yeah, it looks like on YouTube, which is what we're streaming to, there's like a character limit with the comment. So the second half of that, and I think this is what you were talking about, Nate. The study, but done by CMU, however, showed that the risk wasn't huge unless,
Right,
say, you were heating your house with a gas oven or using a lot of gas.
right,
And you're right, the processing plants and the half-life is something to consider. Now, there are instances that we have found, particularly there's actually one well, or well, two wells on one pad here in Penn Township, where
hmm
at the Quest well pad, where they fracked, and it's in production now, and they actually just have mercaptan at the site, so there's no processing of the gas. It's going right into the pipeline from the fracking well site,
okay,
and the mercaptan is being added, which is the odorant for anyone that
right.
wants to know. The mercaptan is just being added right at the pad. And going right into the gas line. So that might be an instance where,
That could possibly be.
yeah. So I guess a couple of takeaways are: the older the gas, the better. uh, less fresh is better in this case. One of the very few areas where that is the case, and and I think another big takeaway is have your home tested.
Right,
Because no
absolutely.
matter what, you wanna make sure your home is safe for you and your kids. I mean, I spend a lot of time down here in our family room, which is at the lowest level of our house. I work down here all the time, so I'm spending a lot of time down here. And that remediation system, I think, is important for me to consider, and make sure that you advocate for your kids when they're going to school as well. I think that that's another takeaway here.
Mhm.
And
Including daycare centers.
yeah, and daycare centers too. I think that's a great idea. Now we do have a map on our website, protectpt.org. There's a map of some of the, not only the fracking sites and the compressor station sites, but also we have here, at least in Penn Township and some of Monroeville, we also have the some of the daycares and schools noted on that map. So if folks want to start reaching out to those people, they can. Jackie has this wonderful calendar that we're putting out and helping her put out with the different radon drawings, and I thought it was really cute. I actually gave one to my son and daughter. I thought the calendar was really, really well done. So you should be very proud of the work that you guys are doing, Jackie and Nate, and just making sure people are more safe in their home. I think it's important. And also important to realize that that we do have older housing stock here in Pennsylvania, particularly in Pittsburgh, and that not everybody owns their home. So those folks that are renting, and primarily those are folks that can't get a home, or maybe have a lower income. So it's important that we protect those folks as well. So we are going to keep pushing out this idea of testing for radon, hoping that in the future we can get more of these radon eyes to have out to the community, and hopefully we can continue to advocate with you guys for people to be looking at their homes and where they live, whether that's an apartment or a home. And yeah, there's another comment that is crazy to realize that schools and daycares don't already have this as a requirement,
I
and
agree.
it's yeah, you'd be surprised.
We're
um,
actually we're actually talking to state representatives now. We just had a meeting with them right before all this COVID stuff hit in January, where we met with a lot of different state senators about making radon a critical component for schools and daycare centers. It just makes good common sense.
Especially since it's so easy to remediate. It's
hmm
something that's so easy to fix
Yeah,
if there is a problem. I mean, it does. You're right. It does makes good common sense. And what you had mentioned earlier about, the medical costs associated with it. I think I hear a call to action that people should contact their state reps and advocate for schools in their area to be testing for radon. And this is the time to do it, as Jackie and Nate put out there. So this is the time. Our kids are in school. Our kids we're going to be in our homes with the windows closed and less airflow. So this is the time for us to talk to our state reps and get the monitoring in the schools, and also to be monitoring in your home. If you want to learn more about our air monitoring, you can go to protectpt.org and sign up for air monitoring in your neighborhood, in your home. And like I said, we're hoping to get additional monitors for radon, in addition to the PM 2.5 monitors that we currently have. And we're going to add that to our air monitoring program. And Patrick, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. We would like to know what you think about our lunch hour. So please take our survey for the lunch hour and subscribe to our YouTube. This is actually one of the last lunch hours we're going to do for a while. We're taking the month of October off, and most of the month of November. Also, we're going to be joining you in November on Tuesdays for the week before Thanksgiving and the week of Thanksgiving, because the week before Thanksgiving on Tuesday is Giving Tuesday. And so Giving Tuesday is an important thing for nonprofits to be able to, collect those really important donations that we need to survive. And I just want to mention CR3 is a nonprofit, as Jackie mentioned, and we are a nonprofit as well, 501c3, and it's important to recognize and support the programs that are helping you in your community. So please consider donating to CR3. Please consider donating to Protect PT, because we're going to continue to do this awareness and outreach. Take our survey to tell us what you'd like to see in the new year for the lunch hours. We're going to have a couple lunch hours in December. But then if you'll go to the next slide. Yep. So, and we're going to devote a lot of our time in November and December talking about the different waterways illustrations that we have. And here's an example of how we're using these beautiful illustrations that were done for us by two Philly artists that produced this beautiful drawings for us, really depicting some of the different programs that we talk about. One of them that kind of supports what we're talking about today, Clean Air for All, has the school in the background. This was an initiative just trying to bring awareness to getting air monitoring in schools. Radon in schools also would be wonderful to have both of these things. And you can see the bird with one of the air monitors that we have in his beak, and the baby bird with knowledge is power. So I think that that's a good point for today as well, that knowledge is power. Having knowledge of what you're being exposed to in your home is important, so then you can do something about it. And so please go to protectpt.org/shop, and you can get some posters or stickers, or we've got water bottles on the way, and we've got great t-shirts. And we want to thank Nate and Jackie for joining us today, and really for the opportunity to partner with you guys, because this is a wonderful partnership. I think it's going to be a good partnership going forward, and we're going to be able to hopefully help a lot of people, make sure that they're not, getting lung cancer and breathing in radon. So thank you guys for helping us and joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, Jackie, do you have any last words? You're on mute.
Yes, I do. Just a quick comment, and I did send it to Jillian, but I wanted you also to know that CR3, we are also the ambassadors for the Bark Side of Radon initiative. There have been studies that show that radon also affects your pets. So what we do is we have posters, and if you'd like some, let me know. And then we want to get the posters into the vet, hospitals, into the pet stores, to let people know your pets are being affected by high rates, or well, not high rates, but cancer. So, and radon does affect them. They're at the lowest levels of the house. You'll always find your cat or your dog down in your basement somewhere. So be sensitive to that as well. And thank you, everybody.
Jackie, did you see my cat behind me?
Yes, I did. Waiting to be
She's
fed.
always down here. This is her little lair because the dog
There
is
you go.
upstairs. He's monopolized the living room.
Positive proof.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, Jackie, and thank you guys for the work that you do. You're phenomenal at what you do, and we
Thank
have
you.
those links in the chat. We have the links up on the video, so check out CR3 online and make sure you're getting their publications. And if you want one of the posters and one of the calendars, make sure you contact Jackie. And thank you guys. Thank you, Nate, for your great knowledge.
Thank you.
You had so much great things to offer today, and we really appreciate. And thank you, Jackie. And just a wonderful story of a cancer survivor. It's great that you have this story to share with others. So thank you
5
so much.
years as of September, 5 years free.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that we're doing also, I'm doing as another project, it's called my Moves Project,
Yeah.
where we're working in low income areas that can't afford the radon test or the radon mitigation, where we're guaranteeing, and especially in areas like Homewood and other areas where we're guaranteeing to do the radon test and fix the home for free at no cost for qualified low income and disparaged communities. That's one of our new projects that we're working on now. Thank you.
So where can people find out more information about that, Nate?
I'll send you some information and the links for all that. I worked with Jackie with that also. So we'll be glad to send that information to everyone. That's not a problem.
Great. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll send it out to some of our organizational partners that do work in those areas and make sure they know about that program.
Great.
Thank you both, and happy lunch, everyone. And we'll be seeing you in November. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.